Good day to you. Hey, this is Brother Cliff again with another question and answer time. Today we have a question that comes from Matthew chapter 7. Verse 1 is the only one they mention, but you have to read verse 2 also to get the gist of it. But the question is, what is the proper way to interpret Matthew 7:1? And whoever did this made two comments, and I'll share those comments because they go along with what I'm going to say. But this is culture's favorite verse because they believe it means Christians cannot speak against sin. And then the other statement, likewise, carnal Christians use this verse to justify disobedience. And both of those statements may be true. I'm sure there are Christians sometimes who use them as a scapegoat, so to speak. But the Bible says in Matthew 7:1 and 2, it says, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure you mete, it shall be measured to you again." Well, we got to, first of all, look at that first word of the verse, and that's the word judge. What does that word actually mean? Well, if you look it up, and you can do this search for yourself, you'll find that it means to decide, or to distinguish, to condemn, to avenge, or even to damn. In the context that Jesus is using it here, it is something that we as Christians ought to avoid at all costs, because this verse is actually talking about judging with the idea of condemnation. Judging with the idea of condemnation. That's what Jesus is saying. We should not judge people with the intent to condemn them. Okay? Some people say, well, Brother Cliff, and maybe that goes along with these two statements, the fact of the matter is that we shouldn't judge anybody or anything. But it's not saying that Christians shouldn't judge. In fact, Jesus said in this same chapter, you can turn over there and read it for yourself, but listen what he said. He said, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do man gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit." Now, what is he saying? We're never to judge anybody or anything, but Jesus clearly states here that we have to judge the way people live or the way they act, the fruit that they bear. In fact, he says you will know them by the fruit they bear. Jesus also told us in John chapter 7, in verse 24, Jesus said, "Judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment." In other words, if we look at something and we make a judgment based only on the appearance, well, we don't have that authority. We can't see a man's heart. That's why we could never judge a person with condemnation towards them, because we don't know their motive. We don't know their heart. Only God can see the heart of the individual. Many times we do make judgments according to appearance, but Jesus said that'll lead us astray. I read a story once of a biker who came to church service. He walked in the back, and he had tattoos all over him, and he had the long hair and the leather jacket, and he looked rough. He looked like, a person you didn't want to mess with. And he walked down the aisle of the church, and he went down towards the front. And the pastor greeted him. Well, they went through their song service, make a long story short, and they got time for the preaching. The pastor got up and he said, I'm so pleased today that that I have my good friend with me today that's visiting. And he happens to be a pastor. He's a pastor of a motorcycle group of folks who ride motorcycles. And I've asked him, would he speak to us today? I'm going to invite him to come up. And when he got through preaching that day, everybody was shocked. because he preached a powerful message on the love of Christ. But see, you could have judged him by his appearance and missed out on truly who he is and who he was. And we do that sometimes. It doesn't mean that we can't make assessments at how people live and what people do. But it does mean that we never judge the inward motives of others in the sense of condemning them. We're not to enter a verdict in their life based on prejudice or information that's not real or not right. We can't do that, okay? So I hope that helps you understand. Yes, people might use it as a scapegoat to allow others to sin or this, but that's not the point at all. In fact, if you would be better off to spend time in verses 3 through 6. Because in 3 through 6, Jesus says, take care of your own life, your own problems, before you try to solve somebody else's problems. Why do we see the splinter in their eye, and we got a mote in our eye? So that would be better time spent getting ourselves ready and right before God. I hope that helps you today, but please don't forget that we are not to ever condemn anybody. Did you know that? We don't have that authority. We don't have that right because we don't know the full story. And as old Paul Harvey used to say, that's the rest of the story. Have a great day.